Hello there. We are live. It is Kitty Shambliss here with Coach B from Loving Without Boundaries. We have a great topic that I think is very juicy, and we can dig into it here with B. And if you are seeing this online, and I just realized that we're not. I thought we were on Instagram, but I forgot to set that up. But that's okay. We're in the other areas. But if you are seeing this online and you are not part of our online community, know that we have a private online community on Facebook. If you do a search for Loving Without Boundaries, Healthy Open Relationships and Lifestyle Freedom, you can come join our free group over there. And we'd be excited to welcome you to that community that is almost 14,000 people at this point, which is incredible. I'm also here on LinkedIn, and we also have our Instagram, which is at Loving Without Boundaries as well, that you can be following us. And we're on YouTube as well. And I also have a podcast of the same name, Loving Without Boundaries. So lots of ways we are giving you support and guidance and some resources. And we'll also give you opportunities if you wanted to dive in deeper with coaching at the end of our talk here today. But so let's get started. Our talk today is about breaking free from comparison, which is incredibly relevant when we are talking about consensual non-monogamy and polyamory and having multiple relationships. That's a very easy place for us to get steeped into that comparison game. And I'd love it, B, if you would get us started on this topic from your perspective.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Excited to have our bi-weekly Facebook Live here with, as you said, Kiri, with a very, very juicy topic. Indeed, it's crucial to address the topic of comparison in our consensual non-monogamous relationship because it has a direct impact on the foundations of relationship fulfillment and longevity. For example, when it comes to trust, autonomy, or communication. When we do compare, what we do is actually we create one of the biggest disadvantages that we can create for ourselves, because what it does is basically that we live in those scenarios that we don't want to happen. The reasons why we compare can really go back to our early age, because we tend to be conditioned by society, by our really close environment, to measure our own worth and value based on external standards and external validations. Scarcity mindset that is so frequent in the CNM lifestyle as well, that there's just not enough love to go around, can also fuel the comparison pattern. And I also want to highlight that the comparison is way more than simply behavior that we do, that I keep comparing myself or my relationships or my partners to something or someone else. It's a complex interplay of emotions, societal norms, our insecurities, and our beliefs. The consequences, if we fall into this trap and unable to exit it, can be really far-reaching and profound for both the individual and the relationship. For the individual, it can create a pervasive sense of lack of self-worth, self-criticism, self-blaming, self-doubt, low self-esteem that can trigger the flight, freeze, and what's that? Sorry, I lost my throat. Have response, flight, freeze, and fight response in us, which contributes to a lot of stress hormones in our body that can, with time, wear down our immune system. So what we can experience is certain health issues alongside with anxiety and depression, and just really not feeling great in our skin. The comparison trap can contribute to unhealthy coping mechanisms as well. For example, external validation seeking to a really excess degree, or behavioral or substance addiction, or sadly, it can result also in avoiding intimacy, vulnerability, and deep connections altogether. So these are some of the individual consequences that we can experience. And I want to check in with you, Kitty, if you wanted to stack on.
I love just the lens that you're giving us look through so far. And I couldn't agree more, that difference between the scarcity mindset, like there isn't enough love to go around, or, I often say that love is infinite, but time is not. So, I mean, there could be less time with a partner when there are multiple partners. So that can also create those kind of tit for tat comparison games. That can be a pattern where people might start a scorecard. Oh, well, you spent X number of nights with this person, but not as many with me. And we can have that scorecard that can become very toxic in terms of in that tit for tat way of thinking, instead of moving into that more abundance mindset, or knowing that you're on the same team with your partner, that you can work together, ideally when you are in a healthy relationship dynamic, where you can be negotiating and feeling like you've got each other's backs while you're navigating your schedules, because that is definitely an aspect that is real, that there are only so many hours in the day, but it can really become a super negative, toxic dance that we can get onto, that can keep us locked into a very dramatic, unhealthy, dysfunctional dance with our partner, when we are kind of steeped in those comparisons. So thank you for getting us started on the topic, B, and I'll give the baton back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kitty. I would like to mention some of the consequences that I experienced personally on my journey with comparison. And I transitioned into something else too very early on in my life. Fresh out of university, I started my career path, and maybe some of you, or many of you, can relate to that I started comparing my path to external standards, like how success must look like, how career success must look like based on external standards. I didn't listen to my own voice back then, which led me to push myself so hard to wanting to reach someone else's standard, that I actually ended up with a massive burnout and a deep clinical level of depression, which further fueled my lack of self-worth and comparing myself that I'm somehow failing. I just can't do this. I don't deserve to live. And I nearly took my own life. So it was so far-reaching consequence, me comparing myself to external standards. In Concession Non-Monogamy, when I started out my journey, what comparison did to me, comparing myself to my partner, other partners, is that I experienced absolutely paralyzing anxiety. That was a complete freeze response. I felt overwhelmed all the time. I was in so much pain that I really needed to do something about it. And then I made that powerful decision. And that's when I reached out to you, Kitty, and you really helped me to reframe that comparison trap, like how to get out of that. So what I did is I leaned into curiosity. And my decision was that, okay, I might not have resolved all of my self-worth issues at that point in time, but what if I was being curious here? What if I showed up empowered, fully supportive of my partner and my metamour? And what if I was just collecting data? So what happens if I embody comparison, which I intentionally did because it's possible, even if all of my issues weren't resolved back then, I was able to create a comparison state in myself with intention. So I want to give hope all to you that that's also possible, even when there's still some unresolved issues and traumas going on. And what this powerful decision did, instead of comparison, embodying compersion and full support, is helped me realize that there were compatibility issues in my relationship. So instead of me being stuck in my own head with worst case scenarios, what am I not enough? What if I'm going to be left? I actually entered in a real life situation and reality tested my hypothesis. The incoming data was incredible and really helped me to empower myself and part ways in an amicable way with my partner, because it turned out that we indeed have some incompatibility issues, and that powerful decision helped me. I really want to highlight that very often what is the worst place to be is not moving, to not taking any steps. So nothing can be worse than indecision and inaction. Even action that takes us into a direction that is not ideal direction. What it does is it gets us information so we can make further decisions about our life path and our relationships.
Mhm.
This helps that I shared all this.
Yeah, yeah, I want to honor your vulnerability in your share there, B, that I'm sure will resonate with a lot of people, and just illustrating you doing your own work by stepping into courage and sharing your story. You're really helping other people as well. So I love that you highlighted leaning into curiosity and being able to gather data. That was amazing. And I'm happy to share some of my own story as well. I would say one of the first times when I was a child, I was a straight A student. So I, like you, I was competitive, but it was more like in a healthy way. You know, it would spur me to get good grades, which was great, and that as a child helped me to feel a sense of fulfillment through my achievements. As an adult, I mean, things get a little bit trickier, right? So I would say the first time that comparison really rocked my world was when my husband and I we met on Match.com back when we were still practicing monogamy. Later on, we both were former cheaters, and so part of our story is that we ended up eventually learning the word polyamory when we read the book The Ethical Slut. And so by the time we did get married, we did write our own vows, and we just left out the forsake all other vows. At the same time, we enjoyed being married. We did want to start a family. So when we met later in life, so by the time we started a family, we found out that we had infertility issues on both sides, and we went through IVF and it didn't work. And so when I got to a very critical moment in my life, I was comparing really the people that very easily were able to conceive a child and make a traditional family in that regard. And what did that mean for me if I wasn't going to be a mother? Because that's such a standard that a lot of people hold as the ultimate expression of being born a woman, right? And so I got to a point too where I at least thought I had some suicidal thoughts like you be. And it was from that place of lack and focusing on the losses that I had. And they were real losses. Yet what I found was that by changing our focus, working with a professional at that time, I did choose to work with a therapist at that time because I was struggling with depression, which is a perfect moment to be working with a therapist. I was able to change the narrative around that and rewrite the script of what it meant to not have my own biological children. And that also led to the work that I do now, because a lot of this work here of being a professional coach for people who are coloring outside the lines of heteronormative monogamy, I believe that I'm helping adults to live their best lives. So that's partly the way I'm leaving my mark on the world and making a difference. So instead of raising and helping my own biological children or possibly even adopted children, instead I'm helping adults to live their best lives, and I'm building family in a way that works for me because I live with my husband and I also live with my other significant other and our fur baby. So we have our own unusual family, but there are many, many more families that aren't following that. I think the statistic is only 20% of American families look like that perfect household of a husband, a wife, and 2.5 healthy children, right? So that's when we talk about comparison, right? We have this belief that that's like how all the healthy families look like, and everyone's in a healthy family like that. But in reality, just using that one statistic, actually only 1 in 5 families in America anyway look like that. So we can get really clouded in our way of thinking that can cause us to create our own suffering. And that's why I think this topic is so incredibly important. So thanks for bringing it up, B. I'd love to give the baton back to you.
I appreciate, Kiri, and honor your vulnerable and really powerful share, how you rewrote your story. I really love that, that this is one of my favorite ways to look at life, to reframe things in a powerful way and see the gifts in even the challenging situations. So I want to highlight, to stack on your share that we can actually reprogram that scarcity mindset, that there's not enough love to go around. We absolutely are empowered and can empower ourselves, even if we don't feel empowered in the moment, to rewrite our story and to change our focus from negative outcomes, like what if this happens, what if that happens, what if I'm not enough, into what is it that I want instead. Shifting that focus onto what we want, like positive relationship goals, can make all the difference. So I would like to invite you all who are listening and watching to check in with yourselves when you compare yourselves or your relationships to external standards. Like, what is it that you feel? What are the body sensations? What are the emotions? And when you have that, what is it that you would like to feel instead? What are the emotions that you want to experience on a daily basis? And based on that, start thinking about that, like, who do you have to become, what type of help you might need to get to that ideal place that you want to feel instead. And I also want to encourage you all to allow yourself to rewrite your standards. This is also one of my couple of favorite questions to ask, that whose voice I'm hearing, whose voice says that I should live up to those particular standards or expectations. And if it doesn't serve me, if I don't feel great about that, what is the standard that I want to follow instead, and then create my own standard. That is something that can really help getting out of the comparison trap, when we start creating our own standards and measure our value and worth based on what's important to us in accordance with our value system, versus what other people say how we should live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. I put some of those into the comments for those that can see it. I think those will show up probably on YouTube. If you're not watching this there, you can check that out later if you want to find us on YouTube. So yeah, I really want to highlight some things just in terms of, again, to summarize some of the negative consequences of that comparison game or that comparison pattern is that it can compromise our boundaries. It can also cause a lack of empathy or a misattunement if we're so focused on ourselves and our perceived loss or what we're not getting, instead of showing up with empathy, which can also lead towards compersion of the other people, remembering that they have needs and feelings and desires just like we have needs and feelings and desires. So remembering that shared humanity is really important, but we can get out of alignment and out of attunement with that. And we also can end up on what we call, in the work that we do, on the field of battle, where we just kind of got our dukes up, and then you've got somebody who's kind of attacking and the other person who might be in defense mode. And when that happens, then nobody's needs are really getting met. These are some of the things that can happen from that type of scarcity mindset that comparison can come to. So in terms of how to move through this, we've touched on some of those things here, but one is just noticing that pattern. So having that awareness around your patterns and changing your ways of thinking and up-leveling your thinking, remembering that pain is optional. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So there's a great phrase that comparison is the thief of joy. And if you remember that, it's an empowering statement, because you realize that because you're creating the comparisons, you can also let go of those comparisons and change that script, change the narrative, and reduce any suffering. You can also lean into, as B said earlier, curiosity, whether that's gathering data from the situation so that you can then make some more informed decisions about how to move forward into healthy dynamics with your partners. And also coming into radical acceptance of reality, of what's actually happening, and noting that, like, what is the truth of what's actually happening, and start to strip away any interpretations or disempowering beliefs around that, or limiting beliefs about what's happening. Because a lot of times we're telling ourselves stories that aren't necessarily true, or catastrophizing, or shining a light in areas that are not serving us, because there's two truths in any given situation, and we get to decide which truth we're going to focus on, and then call forth the best version of us to handle those situations. So before I start to round it out, B, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I really loved, Kiri, that you highlighted that we often can end up telling stories to ourselves that are not true. I definitely can relate to that from my past, and sometimes it comes up. I called myself the queen of disempowering stories and worst case scenarios. And through my own journey, I learned that there's absolutely a way out of that. And as you highlighted, it all starts with that self-awareness to actually identify the specific patterns, the specific thoughts, the stories that we keep telling ourselves with curiosity and with self-compassion, and also being radically honest with each other, because we get to know the specifics of where we are blocked in order to create that transformation so that we get where we want to go.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And you're certainly the epitome of that as well, B. We just brought all the personal growth journey that you've been on, and becoming a part of our team after you've had such a massive transformation, and the beautiful work that you've done since then, becoming a fantastic and amazing certified coach. So thank you for that. And thank you for being part of the team. So if anything that we're saying is resonating with you and you are looking for some more assistance, some professional help, I definitely believe, like, even part of my story was, I believe there's the right professional for the job when we need them. So when I was dealing with depression, I decided to find a therapist that resonated with me. It took a little bit of work. And sometimes a coach can be the right person to work with, depending on where you are at. So one quick metaphor between a coach and a therapist is, if you think of a boat, with an anchor, say your anchor is stuck in the ground and the boat isn't able to move, you think of a therapist as able to unearth some of what's happening there to help that person get unstuck. Whereas a coach, you can think of as the sails, and giving you direction to help point you in the direction that you want to go. So moving from point A to point B with the least amount of suffering as possible, and even having fun along the way. So if that sounds like that might be where you are, and you are seeking professional help in the form of coaching. And also, coaching can go really beautifully alongside quality therapy as well. So if that's you, there's a link on the screen here, lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. If you want to have a conversation with me, and we'll simply get on that call, just pick a time that works for you. There'll be a very brief form for you to fill out that just helps me get a little context for our conversation, get to know you a little bit better, so that when we get on that call, we can really put our heads together. I can see if I can help you. And if I can, then we'll talk about a game plan on what that would look like. If it's either not the right time, or we're not a fit to work together, or I'm not the right person to help you, I will do my best to point you in the best direction for you, so that you get a ton of clarity and value from our time here on that call. So again, if that's you, you want to take that next step of booking a call, that is a free breakthrough session, by the way. It's lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. That's exactly what B did over 3 years ago now. Can't believe it's been over 3 years. And that literally changed the whole trajectory for her life in a big, beautiful, amazing way that in her case led her to become part of the team here. So with that, any other parting thoughts, B?
I just want to encourage everyone to approach your CNM journey with compassion, authenticity, and aiming to exit the comparison trap, so you can really live your very, very best life and create those relationships that really brings you the best fulfillment and a lot of joy. And I very much look forward to a continuous growth, healing, and transformation together until we next meet.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, B. That was a beautiful sentiment. So know that we care about this community deeply. We see your courage and your bravery in living your most authentic life in a way that works for you. And we really believe that there are skills and strategies and ways to move through this life and through these relationships in a way that you can give yourself some grace, build your skill set, and that includes building your empathy muscle, learning how to communicate in really healthy ways, and honoring the beautiful soul that is inside of you, as you are also welcoming loved ones that you want to have in your life. And I really do believe we have a fundamental right to love how we want and who we want. And that's partly what we're all about here at Loving Without Boundaries. And for that, I will just say thank you, B, for the topic and the beautiful conversation. And we look forward to speaking with you next time. All right, take care. Bye-bye.